Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. Today we're going to be going over the PTR changes as a whole because they will be hitting the live servers fairly soon. Hell, they might even be on the live servers by the time that this video goes out. So we're going to be taking a closer look at them. We've spoken about the Pharah changes to death, but there's stuff to do with Soldier, McCree, Brigitte nerfs, Orisa buffs, things that we haven't really spoken about on the channel so far. So I thought I'd list a bit of a winners and losers list on what heroes are going to be looking really good, either the ones that were, buffed themselves or nerfed themselves, but also heroes that might be indirectly changed by them, or heroes that I just wanted to highlight as being pretty good right now regardless of these changes going through. And then we of course have the heroes that aren't doing as well, that really need a little bit of love from Blizzard, Jeff Kaplan, the like, but we'll go over all of that now. We will start with the buffs as we usually do, and I do want to start with Hitscan heroes. So this is McCree, Soldier, and I also want to add Widowmaker onto the list. It comes as no surprise that McCree and Soldier are both going to be on this list as they both are changes. McCree had a pretty substantial one which I think people are sleeping on quite a lot. This is the change that his combat roll's cooldown was reduced to 6 seconds from 8, and this just means so many different things. You could reload your gun faster. McCree's biggest weakness was the ability to outmaneuver his opponents and not to get caught out in the open, so whilst it is a small reduction to his cooldown, I think it will go a long way. Not to mention you have the damage fall off changes to him and Soldier that went out a couple of patches beforehand. It all adds up, and I think that does put McCree in a much more solid position than he has been recently. The Soldier change is kind of harder to explain. It's all to do with a weapon spread, but in general this change means that Soldier's accuracy is a lot better after shooting more bullets. The spread doesn't happen as soon as it used to, so this should help with his damage consistency. Widowmaker didn't get any changes this patch, but you have to say that she is in a really solid spot right now, even in a meta where Goats Comp kind of favours everything that's going on. In our own ranked games, you can still play Widowmaker and get a good amount of use from her still. Not to mention, if the enemy team is playing a pretty bad Goats Comp and you can pick people before fights have even begun, they have no way to reach you with any of the heroes that they'd be playing, so overall you have to say that Widowmaker is still a strong pick. With the Mercy nerfs and everything that's happened since then, she's not as good as she used to be, but she's still a pretty solid pick if you combine this with, say, an Anna. Torbjorn got his rework, and because of that I think it's on the buffs list. Now it's hard to say how good these changes are going to be for Torbjorn. It might be another case of Symmetra where she's a little bit better, she could be used a little bit more, but people still consider her a bit of a troll pick. But I feel that these changes to Torbjorn means that there's less moving parts overall. You don't need to build up your turret anymore, you could just heal it up with your hammer and that's all you really need to do. You could drop your turret, place it around, and then maneuver around yourself to make sure that you're doing as much damage as possible. It's less about babysitting your turret, unless it's taking a good chunk of damage. Overdrive and ability looks really strong, and his ultimate could do a lot against heroes like Brigitte and any tank that has some armor. You can probably guess who's going to suffer the most there. But I really like this new version of Torbjorn. Again, I don't think he's going to be a must pick, I don't think he's going to be too OP, but I do think he's going to be better than he used to be, and overall I'd say that's a bit of a success. You can play him on attack now without it being considered as much throw-in. It might still be in a lot of different cases, but overall I like these changes, so he goes on the winners list here. Mei is another hero that I really wanted to highlight whilst we're talking about these heroes. Symmetra kinda comes under the same umbrella, but I wouldn't say that she was necessarily a winner. The changes to Mei means that she's been used a lot more. She wasn't changed this patch, but she has been changed a little bit over the course of the last couple, such as no damage fall off on her secondary fire, that kind of stuff. And I see her more and more, but not really getting upset or tilted at the fact that our team is running Mei on attack, because a good portion of the time, they can do quite a lot, completely zoning away enemy targets from their team, putting up a wall to stop the enemy Reinhardt going anywhere, and then just killing him off whilst he's away from his team. Blizzard as an ultimate is really good, and I think Mei is kind of a sleeper pick in a lot of situations. Again, she's not good all of the time, but I've got to say, seeing her popularity increase even just a smidgen in a lot of different scenarios that aren't just, holding the first point of Hanamura, for example, means that she's well on her way into being a very healthy hero. I'd say Orisa is a winner on this list, but not really. These changes to Orisa are solid, but it doesn't really highlight her biggest problem. Reinhardt's a hero that both me and Miska have spoken about quite a lot, and it feels that if you aren't running a Reinhardt yourself and the enemy team are, the ability to move and maneuver around with a shield is so integral to playing a main tank role, that whilst Orisa can be good on, say, Rialto first point, or Well, for example, on Ilios, the inability to move shields dynamically can really cause a lot of issues. When a Reinhardt could just see that the Orisa's plodded down her shield, he could just run straight past it, put that Earth Shatter through with nothing to stop him. So because of that, it's not really a great position for Orisa to be in, or any main tanks. These changes are nice, but ultimately, is it going to do much? I don't really think so, but only time will tell on that one. With heroes that weren't changed, I have to highlight Doomfist and Sombra. Both of these heroes are really tearing apart the meta, and a lot of people hating them because of it. Sombra I don't mind too much, it's never nice to get hacked, don't get me wrong, but I do have a couple of issues with Doomfist. I don't like being one-shot by abilities that I can't really do much about. Both of these heroes take a lot of skill to get the most out of them, and can be really strong and oppressive in the right hands. But I do want to hear what you guys think of them, whether Doomfist or Sombra should be nerfed. Be interested to get your take on that. In general, I would say a lot of heroes are on this winner's side. If we don't mention them, I'd say that they're in a fairly good spot, or the same that they've been before. We're really in a nice diverse meta as a whole, and I really like it because it feels that you can run certain heroes even in compositions or on maps where it just doesn't suit them. Running out of Dorado with a Mei isn't as bad as it used to be. I'd say the issue is that you can play any hero all of the time, but you can't play any hero all of the time. What I mean by that is you can't just one-trick a Mei and hope it'll do well. Hell, even I've been trying to sort of one-trick Anna on an account and it's been going shockingly because there's just so many situations where a Moira or even a Mercy is a much better pick depending on compositions and maps. Some of the time you can get away with some of these niche picks, being able to play them in situations where you just wouldn't before. That's great, but you still can't play a Mei all of the time and hope to have good success, or not to piss people off. It doesn't really work that way, unfortunately, but I'd say the meta is probably the best state that's ever been, apart from the heroes I'm going to mention, because they're having a horrible time. We'll start with Pharah. Regardless of what you think of the changes, whether these are buffs or nerfs, mix in Pharah's splash damage nerf alongside the buffs to Hitscan, McCree, Soldier, Widowmaker is already pretty good. It just makes Pharah's life so much harder and so much more difficult to get effective use. So whilst the changes themselves might kind of be just a nice little change, neither bad nor good, the state of the meta is starting to put her out of favour, but there's always going to be situations where she's quite good. It's just a lot more tricky to make it work all of the time. And I'd say that's very similar for Mercy. Mercy is in a pretty poor spot right now. There's no going around that. Her healing output isn't as good as it used to be. Moira now outputs the most healing in the support category. It just offers a little bit more than Mercy. I think Valkyrie as an ultimate really needs changing to make it a little bit more exciting and engaging, because right now it matches the way that Mercy plays, which is quite boring, quite vanilla, very straightforward, and players that did have a good amount of game sense knowledge and skill playing Mercy, and yes, that is a thing, can't really get the same use out of it now. So both Pharah and Mercy in a really tricky position. When they play together, it's not as bad, but unless you're running a Pharah for a Mercy or Mercy for Pharah, there's very little reason to play either of them. They're really struggling. Next on the list is Brigitte, but not really. Brigitte did get another nerf on the PTR, that's like the 5th in a row at this point, and there is a worry that Brigitte might be heading the same way as Mercy, and I know that some people are going to say good, and like fair enough, but I feel that Blizzard tends to go a bit too ham with these nerfs. And also, the shield health for Brigitte wasn't really the problem, so I'll be interested to see what these changes do to her pick rate. No doubt us and Omnic Lab will take a closer look at that when we have more information, but Brigitte's on this list because she did just flat out get nerfed, but she's always still going to be pretty good up until the point where she just isn't anymore, which I guess we'll call the Mercy syndrome. Being good, nerf, still good, okay, trash. There's no fine line, it's either OP or trash. Next on this list is Reinhardt. Do we really need to go over why? He's a buggy hero that gets punished by literally everyone, and I'm honestly surprised that Blizzard haven't put in some form of anti-CC shield on Reinhardt, meaning that he doesn't get knocked up in the air as high. He's a little bit heavier on the ground, especially when he has his shield up. That'd be nice to see. It's a change that could fix a lot about the hero, but ultimately his ultimate also needs fixing. He's a bit of a mess and he needs some love. And finally, Roadhog. Roadhog's an interesting one because he should have had changes on the PTR, but just didn't. I know Jeff Kaplan spoke about them and wanted to put those changes into the PTR with everything else that we've covered, but it just never happened. So Roadhog is on the downside of some other nerfs with his right click fall off damage, and is waiting for some current buffs that might sort of bring him up a little bit. Fingers crossed enough to make him a bit of a threat again. But this is what I mean, the heroes on this list of nerfs, you could probably guess who they were. There's not many heroes in the game that are really bad, but I'd say Pharah Mercy, Reinhardt and Roadhog really do need a little bit more love, and now that Pharah's been put into that position where it's not looking as good for her anymore, I don't think it's the same level as Mercy, Reinhardt and Roadhog, who are all in big trouble. But if these changes are predicted to be as bad as Seagull or or Kia think they'll be, then she could very well be at that level. So they're my winners and losers for this patch, at least this PTR one, not necessarily for Season 12 or Season 13, but do let us know if you agree or disagree, any heroes that I missed, like Sombra should be on the losers because she's buggy as hell. Do let us know that in the comments below. No doubt I have missed a hero here or there, but thanks for watching, take care, we'll see you next time.